everyone, and welcome to episode 258 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Just Ryan and Adam here with you this evening for a Week 6 CFL preview. For each of the games this week, we will take a look at some major storylines, some fantasy players to watch with some interesting new insights, and our CFL betting picks against the spread, over, under, and a player prop or two for each of the games. We'll also take your comments and questions in our live chat throughout the night. If you're joining us live, thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV, which you can learn more about at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Good evening, joining us live. First comment here, Ryan, did you get beat up this week? You look different. No, I don't think so. I don't think that is what happened. But nope, I don't know what's different this week. But anyways, I'm joined by the great Adam Stewart, who looks just as great as always. Adam, how are you doing?
Well, I don't know what looks great as always. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, thanks for the compliment, I suppose. I'm doing okay. You know what? It's been a long week. Been a hot week here in Saskatchewan. So lots of hot weather makes the day go by rather slowly because you're sitting there sweating. And as you know, this is not big boy weather. This is weather for, the speedy young ones and the short ones and the skinny ones, the big guy weather. This is not offensive line, defensive line weather.
No, it's not. It really isn't. I think the game here in Winnipeg on Friday night is supposed to be 32 degrees or something like that. That's going to be a sweaty one. Yeah.
No, she was it was pretty warm there the other night there when I went to Regina, but you know what? That was actually a fun game. I got to sit in a pretty good seat and everything. And I'm not 32 above, but fun game though.
Yeah, you got to watch the Riders pull out a win. Shea Patterson, big win there for him too. So
MOP of the year, isn't he? Without
gotta be, right. His one rushing touchdown and his average passing, definitely.
Absolutely, 195 yards, instant Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly. Put him in the Hall of Fame alongside Nathan Rourke. It was a good game here in Winnipeg on Friday night as well. I always say I'm jealous of your guys' hats. I continue the mantra: losing makes winning fun. Let's put on the Bomber hat. It was a good game. It was a fun game. It was one of the most fun Bomber games I feel like I've been to in a long time.
All they did was sit there and grind it out, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I watched this one. It was, okay, Brady Oliveira, here's the ball, run.
Yeah.
Until he got hurt, and then they decided, hey, Johnny Augustine, while we're waiting for Brady Oliveira to come back, here's the ball, run.
No, it was more like here, Chris Streveler run the ball over and over.
It was definitely one of those grinder games for Winnipeg, but you know what? They won. Now they're not 0. Now they're down to 1.
Yeah, there we go. I forget. I think it was Mike texted me. It was like, yep, Bombers playing a good old-fashioned game of rugby. Pretty much is the way they got that one done. Great week of CFL football in the books, and a great week ahead. We'll take a look at 4 games here today. But a couple of housekeeping notes first. We do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. We also want to highlight off the top of the show to check out the Discord community if you haven't done so yet. The link is in the episode description. It's free to join. Lots going on over there in the Discord these days. If you're playing CFL Fantasy and want extra insight on top of what we give here on the show, I put a bunch of charts in the Discord every week. I added some new ones just last night that you'll hear some of the insights from those here on the show throughout the evening here, but you get extra special access to the actual underlying data I use through some of the screenshots I send in the Discord. So check that out. There's CFL betting talk in there as well. I've been throwing a prop bet out, my lock it in prop bet of the game. I went 4-0 on the prop bets here on the player props on the podcast last week, Adam. Don't ask me the spread or the over under because that's gone in the toilet, but we gotta ride with Trey and you, and maybe the coin on those ones. But player props, I feel like I'm getting locked in here.
Yeah, no. Last week I was more watching my fantasy stuff, and we won't want to talk about my picks last week. They weren't very good, and didn't help that I went and decided, you know what, the Argonauts, they should win that game in Saskatchewan, right? That wasn't a wise decision, picking their quarterback and then making him my captain, and then going and picking the Hamilton defense, which got me a -4.
And can't be that bad this week.
Well, yeah, they can't be that bad this week. And then Kadeem Carey, I guess he got me a touchdown.
Yeah, that kind of salvaged the week there on that one. But no, lots of good fun in the Discord. Adam posts his poll questions there. Trey posts his power rankings as well. We get into fun conversations such as what would it take to trade for Trey Ford, and some fun answers along the way. Shout out to Josh M and the lore of the Cuban sandwich in the Discord community. If you want to, how many Cuban sandwiches can you trade Trey Ford for? If you want to find out, check out the Discord. The link is in the episode description to join us over there. And you know what? I'll give you a light teaser. Maybe some more fun Discord perk coming in a couple of weeks. I haven't even told any of these guys about yet. So I'll tell Adam after the show. More info on that to come in the coming weeks. All right, let's get into our first game of the week, because that's what we're here to talk about. It is the Toronto Argonauts visiting the Montreal Alouettes on Thursday night, and I think the top storyline to talk about in this game here is Cameron Duke's absolutely awful performance against the Saskatchewan Roughriders last week. And, it's really not much time for a bounce back here facing the terrifying Montreal Alouettes defense here on Thursday Night Football, Adam. What do you think about what you saw from Dukes? You got to see him close up last week, and terrible matchup to try to get that bounce back, right?
Absolutely it is. I mean, first you got the Riders running Ruckshaw over whatever you're trying to do. And I mean, not Chad Kelly, I should say, Cameron Dukes tried to do whatever he possibly could to get out of pressure, mostly. A lot of running plays by by Dukes there, and really just had not had really any success running, then tried to throw the ball. Then he got picked twice in a row, one for a touchdown. It was just a bad night for anybody named Cameron Dukes. Nick Arbuckle had to come in the last drive and try to make something happen. And yeah, when your hopes are up to Nick Arbuckle, you're in trouble.
I'm not going to lie. I thought we were going to end up in Bizarro World here where Arbuckle does lead the comeback victory, because he actually looked pretty good on that drive. That was the best.
Honestly,
Arbuckle
it looks okay. Yeah. No, he looked okay. I mean, I thought that maybe they were going to bring in the other guy, the third string guy that they had on the roster, because I thought, well, we've seen Arbuckle before. Maybe we'll just see him to finish this game off. But no, Toronto went for it, and Nick Arbuckle actually had a pretty good drive there, actually, to end the game. And then just didn't quite work out in the end. But for sure, Toronto tried real hard to get something like that. And again, how much of this do you go and call on Cameron Dukes, or how much of this is on the receivers being injured? How much of a balance is that? Or is this going to start maybe looking at Cameron Dukes going to have a shorter leash? What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know. It was eye-opening comments from Ryan Dinwiddie this week when he said, when Chad Kelly is back from his suspension, he's their number one quarterback. And you could stop there. And you know what? There's going to be people that disagree, obviously, due to the off-field stuff. But I get what the coach is saying based on the talent there. But you could stop there, and I'd put a question mark on it. I was like, is he just saying this? And Mike and I were actually having a bit of a conversation about this the other day, where it was like, okay, yeah, he could say that, and it's like, is he just saying that to save face? But he not only said that, he went on, and I'm paraphrasing here, to say, we haven't seen a talent like Chad Kelly at quarterback in this league in a long time, or something like that. And to go out and not only say, yeah, he's going to be the starter when he's back, and to say, no, this guy's like a legend type of thing, like, that's pretty clear statement in my eyes that Kelly will be the starter when he comes back from the suspension. And we don't know when that will be exactly yet. It's a minimum 9 weeks. But we're getting close to 9 weeks. I mean, we're on week 6 now already. So, yeah, I think there's a leash on Dukes, not necessarily right now, but when Kelly is back from his suspension, if he does get reinstated in the league here. And I think it's a tough cycle of matchups here for him to try to bounce back in that meantime. And to answer your other question here, Adam, I don't know if it's I think some of it is on Dukes. I think some of it might be, you look at Toronto's receivers, and yeah, they've had some injuries. I don't think they have a world-class receiver core necessarily like you see from some of these other teams. Like, none of these guys jump out as somebody I'd take in a first or second round of fantasy draft, for example. I don't know how many of Argo's receivers actually were taken in our draft. Maybe 2, if I think about it. So you have to wonder, there's no huge game breakers there necessarily. You did take a step back quarterback talent-wise. Yeah, your whole offense is going to take a step back as a whole. But to be fair, their last two games have been against Montreal and Saskatchewan's defense, and now they face Montreal again. So terrible gauntlet, really, for the Argos to go through here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it doesn't help even going through the defense of the Toronto Argonauts. And when you look at what this Montreal offense has been doing as well, we talk lots about the Montreal defense, but this offense is just incredible. I mean, Tyson Philpo is having a career year. You've got Walter Fletcher, who's broken out. I'll say he's probably the breakout running back of the year so far. Just every game, he has big runs to make a big play when the Alouettes need it. You've got so many other pieces. Cole Speaker, was one of the top 3 or 4 receivers last week. Lots and lots of talent on this team. And now Toronto's even got quite a little bit of injury starting on the defensive side of the football. You look, their big piece right down the middle and their prized trade, I guess, for this year was Jake Serezna. He got hurt in Saskatchewan and will be out this week. If you're the Argonauts, you got a suggestion how you're going to stop all these pieces, or are you just going to try to contain one thing?
Just lay down and die and, turtle mode? I don't know.
Let's see how this pays off.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Argos are giving up over 300 passing yards a game already, and Cody Fajardo is having himself a heck of a season, and it's tough to shut down Tyson Philpott. And you mentioned Walter Fletcher, and one of the most intriguing stats for me, Walter Fletcher has more receiving yards than rushing yards on the season. He's at 232 receiving, 230 rushing. This is a guy that put up over 100 yards through the air last week as a running back. Only carried the ball 5 or 6 times, but he's just a glorified receiver in a running back's body right now, and it's working for them, and they've got all of these weapons, and right now it's really hard to shut them down. Last week, you look at it, I think on this very show last week, I was saying, when's Montreal going to lose? I have a hard time seeing a scenario where this team's going to crash and burn. Well, that almost happened against Calgary last week, where somehow the Stamps put up 23 points on them in the first half, and Montreal turned the ball over, and Calgary made the most of those mistakes. That's what Toronto has to do, exactly that. But then you can't let up. And this brings me back to what we talked about a lot with, some of those bomber teams the last couple of years, I think, where it's like, you kind of got to do everything right for a full 60 minutes to beat some of these teams like the Alouettes are right now. And that's a tall task for these Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, I just don't think the Argonauts can put a full 60 minutes together. You looked last week, the first play of the game there with Janarian Grant running back a touchdown. If that doesn't happen, the Riders pretty much walk Toronto. I don't think that game was really even close, other than you had a rookie quarterback in Shea Patterson. If the Riders had Trevor Harris and their regular receiving core, that game isn't even close. The Argonauts just look bad. That being said, I guess let's move on to fantasy if you want to, Ryan. Anything you're looking at this week besides Tyson Philpo, because everybody has to pick Tyson Philpo?
Yeah, so I guess just to touch on, like I mentioned before, I got a couple of new charts we're looking at for fantasy here now. We've been looking at favorable matchups in terms of, okay, this team gives up, say, 20 points a game to quarterbacks and something like that. But sometimes that doesn't tell the whole picture. So we've also now added charts to my collection for seeing what players' average rank among others at the position are, and how that compares matchup wise here as well. So we'll take some of that into account here. Now let's start with Cody Fajardo as a quarterback at 14,000. Dream matchup this week. I think he's got to be a lock as one of the top quarterback options. And I'll say I've gone Vernon Adams, I think, every week so far. This might be the first week I go a different direction here. Fajardo has finished as a top 5 quarterback every week, which is the second highest average placement. Quarterbacks facing the Argos also on average finished top 3 on the week. So like I said, really good matchup there. Over 300 yards a game, 74.6% completion rate. The Argos give up, worst in the league, and 7 big plays, and I think second most touchdowns in the league. So we talk about that air attack for Fajardo and the Alouettes. I think he's going to benefit from that. I also think you have to lock in Tyson Philpott, because Tyson Philpott has been a fantasy hack so far this year. He has finished as a top 2 wide receiver in 3 of 5 weeks. He finished 4th in one of those other weeks. 3 games this year of 10-plus targets, 130-plus yards, and he also has 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games, including a 20-point performance against the Argos weeks ago. And then Cole Speaker, you touched on him there a little bit. He's been a top 4 wide receiver, actually, in back-to-back weeks. 2 weeks ago against the Argos, he put up 25.3 points. He plays that, no, I guess he doesn't play that left slot back position anymore. Never mind. But he's performed well against the Argos, and he's got touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 as well. So those are the main pieces I'm looking at in this game. I've got some notes on a couple of others here that I'll touch on here briefly, but let me turn it over to you here first. What do you like from this game?
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed all the ones I like. I'm going with Tyson Philpott. I mean, how could you not at this point?
Yeah.
The other one, again, Fajardo is a pretty good choice. I think he probably might give you a little bit more upside right now than Vernon Adams Jr., just because Toronto, I think, has a few more pieces to fill, and they don't seem to put much pressure on the quarterback as maybe a Saskatchewan can on BC. I think Saskatchewan lately, their defense has just kind of really stood out. So if you take Vernon Adams in your high price and Saskatchewan actually gets going, that's really going to hurt you in the end. So, and especially when they're a ball hawk kind of team, Saskatchewan. So, I think Cody Fajardo right now is the pick for quarterback for me. Tyson Philpott, and I'm thinking maybe Walter Fletcher, just because I seen Saskatchewan run on Toronto a little bit more than I thought maybe they should have. So I'm starting to, and not only that, with the injury to Jake Seresna, it may not be a bad idea to let Walter Fletcher try to eat up the middle. So I may put Fletcher in my lineup as a flex. We'll see what happens here. But those are the 3 I'm looking at. Toronto side, no.
Yeah, a couple of other notes here. Starting quarterbacks against Montreal this year, an average placement of 8th. Meaning as bad as it can be for so do not bank on that Cameron Dukes comeback this week. Also, don't like any of the Argos receivers. Their highest average placement is 15.3 on the week. Find yourself a top 10 receiver. Don't take an Argos one, especially in this matchup. You touched on Walter Fletcher, and he has been really good. The only thing that I struggle with picking him still is it's a tough running matchup. I like what you mentioned about the Seresna injury. He's only gotten 11 carries total in those last 2 games combined. And I'm just kind of waiting for that drop off in receiving totals, right? Like, it's not common to see a running back consistently put up 70 to 100 yards receiving a game. And so I'm waiting for that drop off. And if it comes, I don't know if he gets enough carries, and it could be a rough week. So I think I like some safer running back plays than Fletcher. But he certainly is dynamic and explosive, and he's been doing that the past couple of weeks. Let's get into our betting picks for this game. Don't have the totals from the last couple of years, or last couple of weeks, I should say. But we do have our odds here, and Trey did send us in some picks for the spread. We didn't get his over-under picks. If he is still in the chat, I saw him hanging out in there earlier. I know he had some stuff to do this evening, but if he's there, maybe he could throw those out for us also. Toronto or Montreal, 6.5-point favorites at home against the Argos. Trey is taking the Alouettes on the money line and at -6.5. Adam, what are you taking in this game?
I'm going to probably go with the Alouettes. I mean, I can't see them losing by more or less than a touchdown, to be honest. They have all the momentum going into this game, and Cody Fajardo looks good. They got a healthy offense. They got a good defense. It's going to be Montreal for me all the way. I'm going to go on the over for Montreal, though. I think they're going to have a big game this week. And Toronto, yeah, they might get some garbage plays at the end, and that's what could cause it to go over 50.5.
You're taking the over on this one as well. I'm taking Montreal minus 6.5. I'm really a believer in these Alouettes, and I think they are going to shut the Argos offense down. Oh, I hate these spreads. I really hate the spreads or the over-unders on these games. You know what? Give me the over on this one. Actually, what was the score when they played 2 weeks ago?
Let me take a look.
Pull it up here.
30-20, so 50.
Oh, of course, that's right where the line is. That helps nothing. Give me the over on this one as well. So much can happen. We've had there was a stat today of like 20 out of something, 25 games or whatever it is have been, or 24 have been, 15 out of 20, that was the number, have been decided in the final 3 minutes of the game. So lots of points to be scored during that time. Adam, would you do us the honors and flip the coin?
Sure, just so everybody remembers. Heads is the home team. Rider side is the away team. We'll just flip the coin, and it is an away team. So I guess Toronto is beating Montreal this week, according to the coin.
Toronto's beating Montreal. I love it. Let's talk
Good
about
coin. Very. This coin here has done a pile of research. It's checked over all the odds. It knows exactly what it's doing.
Yeah. When is the coin adding charts to the Discord? Come on, pick up the slack. Let's talk about player props. Again, we'll throw out a player prop each. Just kind of a meta conversation on the player props. I kind of honed it in the Discord as well, where I give kind of one main prop for each game. It might be the same as what I throw out on the pod. Sometimes it's not, based on change of information. And then I'll give some other ones considered. But I find it a lot easier to hone in on one than try to get a run of, say, 3 or 4 out of 5 correct in a game. So shifted that around. It's worked pretty well. Again, went 4-0 on the props here on the pod last week. Looking at this game, I can go first since you went first on the game props. There's a couple I like. I mean, Walter Fletcher under 47.5 is a little juicy if he only gets so many carries, but that could go bad in one long run. I'm going to go with the safe pick here, which is Tyson Philpott over 87.5 receiving yards. He has hit over that number in 4 of his 5 games so far this season. Like I said, 3 games over 130. He's cleared that by a mile. I don't like the Argos pass defense one bit. Give me Tyson Philpott to keep doing Tyson Philpott-like things. And that's my player prop for this week. Which one do you like here, Adam?
I am trying to get this to load on my side, and I'm having a little bit of difficulty, so bear with me for a quick minute. I've been fighting this computer all day, and now it's still we're still having a little bit more of a fight, I see. So just give me a moment here. Oh, yes, I care about the Baltimore Ravens so much right now. Instead of it to the NFL. More wagers. Let's take a look here. Nothing to show. Well, that's great. That's what I wanted to know. I wanted to get some wagers on this game. I may have to put a buyout for me on this game here. You know what? No, it won't work for me here.
No worries. We'll move on then.
Yeah, we got to move on. So
yeah, I'll give us the player props for each of these games here. All right, those are our picks.
It's showing me nothing here now every time I click on one of these.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll move on to our second game of the week then, which is the Calgary Stampeders visiting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Another rematch from 2 weeks ago, with the Bombers hosting the Stamps. Again, going to be like 32 degrees at Princess Audio Stadium here Friday night, as they rematch after 2 weeks ago. They went to overtime, I believe these two teams did, at McMahon Stadium. Bombers coming off their first win of the season. We talked about it a little bit off the top of the show. It really was the run. I can't even say the run and gun because it was really just the run and run mantra for them. I mean, Brady Oliveira, 28 touches. Strebler ran for like 70 yards. Not much passing in that one. But the Bombers found a way to get it done, and now they've got the one win. And there's a lot at stake with this game because these two teams play each other only twice this year. Calgary won that one in overtime by a field goal, I think it was. And if Winnipeg wins this one by more than the field goal, they're tied with Calgary in the standings, and they've got the tiebreaker, meaning suddenly, 0-4 start, doom and gloom start to the season. And now you're looking at these two teams being tied, and the Bombers in the third playoff spot in the West all of a sudden. So is this not a team that is quickly turning things around almost?
Yeah, it feels like quickly. I mean, it's been 1 week, and they finally won a game. Congratulations, Winnipeg. I'm glad you learned the run offense, because if Jason if your offensive coordinator, Buck Pierce, doesn't call it the run offense, I don't know what he calls it.
Oh, we're copywriting that now. It's too late.
Absolutely. It's the run offense all day long. I'm sure that probably Coach Trey with his billboard right now, or his little clipboard, is probably drawing up all the offensive plays that he could imagine, which is literally just handball off, run ball, repeat. Anyway.
Yeah, they kept it pretty vanilla too, actually, in that game. Marcus Sales, what's up? All the time they try this Nick Dembski end around handoff, and it will work like 1 in 10 tries, and half the time it'll go for negative yardage and drives me insane. And I thought maybe they'd do more of that. No, they handed the ball off to Oliveira, or they took Strebler and ran the ball. Sometimes he'd run out and he'd throw this little flick pass, which I actually kind of liked to mix things up. It was really hard to stop. So, we talk about that, but the thing is, Zach Collaros is seemingly healthy. I know he's listed as questionable in practice, but Zach Collaros is coming back in to take things over at quarterback. Strebler's not going to be the starting quarterback going forward as long as Collaros is healthy here.
No. Let him start. We all want to see what happens.
I mean, it's the more entertaining option.
I mean, Chris Strebler is like a train wreck. Once he's out there and starts throwing the ball, other teams just want to keep watching. They can't turn their heads away from a train wreck. Anyway.
Nowhere else and no other quarterback do you have a scenario where it's in the fourth quarter of a football game and you hand the ball off to your running back as the quarterback and then go block for him. Like any other starting quarterback in the league, you're walking away like, please don't touch me. Strebler, no, I'm going to go block for my guy. Like he's an enigma. He's an enigma, that one. It's the best way to put it. But, his style of play is one that can win you one-off games here and there. It's not one that can win you the length of the season, which is what Winnipeg's going to need here. I know we've given a lot of flack to Zach Collaros, and he's not played well this year at all. But I think having him in at quarterback in the long run does give you the better chance. And I'm interested to see what that extra week off, because he thought he could play last week. Coach didn't want to chance it. That extra week to kind of just sit and watch and refocus. I wonder if that's something that gives him an opportunity to kind of turn things around coming back, because that's really the focal point of my storyline for this game has to be, what does Zach do, and what does Buck Pierce do with the offense, and does he keep giving Oliveira those kinds of carries?
Well, and I mean, Oliveira did ask for it the one day there, I guess, said, give me the ball, essentially, out in the media, so he kind of was asking for it, so he got his wish. They did win over it, so maybe you do keep handing the ball off to Brady Oliveira. You're right, though, Zach Collaros is your starting quarterback. I mean, it's as simple as just saying the word game film. Eventually, players are going to key in on Chris Strebler making those little flea throws over to the side and just kind of doing the thing, and teams are just going to key in on it. It's not very creative. It's not very much. So, like I said, Collaros gives you that variability that you need in an offense. But you know what? I think maybe this is the game where if you have Zach Collaros in, he's probably going to get you a touchdown or two just because he can stretch the ball a little bit. Calgary's missing some big pieces now in their defensive secondary. Demario Houston, I believe, is still hurt. I'm not sure if he's even questionable in the game.
He's
I
on
think
the 6th game.
he's on the 6th game, so he's out. They've got some big amounts of injury. Sean McEwen, of course, he's injured. Dedrick Mills, that's going to be a very questionable one. It says he's available. He has an oblique injury, so be very interesting to see.
He'll play this week. I think I saw reports today that he is going to play or be good to go for them. He's been practicing fully all week. So
yeah, and they did have a signing also, Calgary, signing former Saskatchewan Roughrider once again, Jamal Morrow to the. No way, he did it twice.
He failed the physical for the second time here for the Calgary Stampeders. Supposedly recovering from wrist surgery, I think it was, or a wrist injury. And they signed him in February. We were all over the move. We loved the move then. 2 days later, found out he didn't pass his physical and was let go. They bring him back now because, we have Mills sat out last game. Peyton Logan played. He got injured. BJ Emmons came in. He got injured. Seemed like they didn't have a healthy running back on the roster, so they kind of needed Jamal Morrow, but he's not healthy himself. So, but does look like Mills has been practicing, and I think he will likely be the starter on the depth chart when that comes out on Thursday.
Yeah, so like I say, lots of things going on for Calgary. I cannot believe that. Jamal Morrow, that you do it twice in a season. But nevertheless, okay. I guess let's move into fantasy on this one here real quick, Ryan. I got
one more topic here for you on this game on the Calgary side, because it's a conversation that's been coming up this week. Last week, Calgary, they put up 23 points in the first half or something like that against Montreal. I don't know if they put any up in the second half. Very little in that game. It kind of died off. Jake Maier had 90 passing yards on the day. Didn't look great in that category. He's been getting a lot of flack again that he's kind of regressed over the last couple of weeks. Where are you at on Maier right now with the Stamps? Because everyone seems doom and gloom over him, and maybe I haven't watched enough, of his film in the last couple of weeks, where I recall the first couple of weeks of the year, he was looking actually pretty darn good and was one of the better quarterbacks, I would say top half in the league. But do you think he's on a downward slide here again?
I think it might start to be. Yes, he looked good against Montreal in that first half, but after that, I don't know. You got Matthew Schultz in there. I think he's got still the better arm. I'd give I'm going to obviously say give Jake Maier the start. He's earned that, but I'd almost start thinking shorter leash. Matthew Schultz is a proven quarterback in this league. He can throw the ball. I don't know if he's really a starting quarterback, but you know what? Jake Maier there, I think, is the guy that you got to start. I think he did give you the win against Winnipeg earlier in the year. I would think that probably you want to go with Jake Maier at least to start this and then see what happens as you go.
Yeah, Maier's passing totals in his 4 games this year, 252, 339, 239, and 106. So it hasn't exactly lit it up. I guess, you know what, there's valid concerns there, I think, with the play he's had so far. And, it's not as much of an issue if they can supplement it with the run game, but then you have to supplement it with the run game, which is hard when you guys are a little bit banged up as they are. Let's get into the fantasy talk, as you talked about. 2 players from this game that intrigue me, may consider putting in my lineup. One is Brady Oliveira at $10,000. I know he missed 1 practice this week, I think. Let me try to find that injury report to confirm what I'm telling you is in fact truth.
Yes.
Because that's important. Yeah, he missed Monday, but he's been full since then. Questionable on the injury report. I'm going to guess that means he's playing. If he was a full participant the last 2 days, they might honestly need to list him as questionable if he was not practicing in there at some point.
So is Mike O'Shea. Everybody that comes in is questionable or out.
Exactly, yeah. But last week, 23 carries, 5 catches, 166 combined yards for Brady Oliveira. This is the recipe for the Bombers' success. They need to keep doing it. And the Stamps give up 6.1 yards per carry and 103.5 yards per game. It's a really good matchup. if they keep feeding Oliveira, I think they will find some success in this game. The other play that intrigues me is Markin Michel at wide receiver for $8,000. In his last 3 games, he has finished as the 11th, the 3rd, and the 9th best wide receiver. So almost a top 10 finish in each of the last 3 weeks. Against the Bombers 2 weeks ago, he put up 22.5 points, and he's getting that target share, 10 targets in each of his last 2 games. Those are my 2 plays here. I've got some other notes as usual as well, but Adam, what do you got between Calgary and Winnipeg?
I've got Brady Oliveira without a question in this game here. Winnipeg proven that if they're going to win a game, they've got to run the ball. And Brady Oliveira is a big piece of that puzzle. So I'm going to go with Brady Oliveira. Other than that, I haven't really picked anybody else from Calgary or from Winnipeg, to be honest with you. I was thinking for a while there I was going to go crazy and try to change my roster up real weird and try to figure out how to get some other better players on some of the other spots, and then have to go with Chris Trevler. And then I was like, no, it's Chris Trevler. He's not a quarterback. I can't put him there. So I ended up going with somebody else. So, yeah. Right now, all I've got is Oliver. He didn't go in the running back spot there, Trevler, so I couldn't put him in.
And I'll say potential for the Calgary running back also. Winnipeg does allow a league worst 111.6 rushing yards per game. But I wait and see the depth chart. I think it will be Mills, but double check the depth chart when it comes out. No Bomber receivers for me in this game, regardless of the quarterback. Only once this year has a Winnipeg receiver finished top 10 in scoring, and that was Nick Dembski in week 3. And either of these quarterbacks, none of them have finished top 4 on the season, so I don't like either of the quarterback plays this week either. Into our betting picks for this game, the Bombers are 4.5-point favorites. So for the 5th straight week, this 6th straight week, this 1-4 football team is the favorite. The over-under is at 47.5. Trey is sticking with his guns and going with the Stamps plus 4.5 and the Stamps on the money line. You went first last time, so I can go first this time on it. I am taking the Bombers here at minus 4.5. To me, they feel like a team where they got the one win. They got the one win, and that's going to translate into a second, and that could translate into some momentum for them to build off of what they had last week and the ways they found success last week. I think it's also hard to beat a team twice in 3 weeks, basically. So give me Winnipeg at I'll take them at minus 4.5. Oh, actually, I'm taking Winnipeg on the money line, but I will take Calgary to cover because these two teams come down to the final play of the game and a field goal, it seems, almost every time. So give me the Stamps, remembering that tidbit to cover the spread here. Over under 47.5. I will go with I'll go with the under. No, Calgary found a way to put up 23 points. I'm so wishy-washy on these ones, and this is why I'm not good at these ones. I'll go with the over. I think these teams will find a way to put up a bit of points. Adam, what about you?
I am going to go absolutely crazy because I think this is the crossroads game for Calgary. Either they're going to keep going, they can win this one, keep going, have some momentum, end up in 3rd, probably in the West or somewhere around there, and push Winnipeg into a bad position, into a bad place. If they can win this one. Jake Mara needs to win this game. Essentially, it's going to be starting to cost him some playing time, I think, if he doesn't. So I'm saying Calgary is a little hungrier in this game. I'm actually going to go with Calgary to win this one, which means I'm going to take the Calgary over, and not just to cover, but also to win. And I'm going to go with the under in this game. I think it's going to be a close defensive game. Winnipeg's going to try to run the ball. Calgary's going to try to block the ball up. And I think it's going to be close, but somehow I think Calgary's going to win this one.
All right. What does the coin say for us? And I'll pull up the player props while you flip the coin.
The coin is saying heads, so it's saying the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will win this game. And, I don't know what it thinks of over-under because it's too good to answer me.
It's too good. The Winnipeg props, or the Winnipeg Calgary props are interesting because we don't know. I assume Zach Collaros is going to play again in this one, which means the Winnipeg receivers should get a little more usage in here. I kind of like, I had him in the fantasy plays. I kind of like the Markin Michelle. He's at like 61 yards, roughly 61 and a half. I'm just trying to find his totals on the year here on my spreadsheets. He's kind of hovered around there. You know what? Give me the where is it? Total receptions over 4.5 receptions for Mark and Michelle against Winnipeg this week. I think they'll key in on him. I mean, like I said, 10 targets in each of the last 2 games, so he's getting that workload in there. The odds, the payout's not great on it. I'm not super confident in any of the plays this week, so give me that one in this game. So give me Mark and Michelle over 4.5 receptions. Were you able to pull him up on this game, or is it not loading for you?
I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if it's thinking I'm a United States guy or a Canadian guy. I don't know.
No worries. Well, check out the Discord community if you want more player props thrown out throughout the week there.
Yeah, we do a whole pile there. So, yeah, you get us, you get some of the community, everybody kind of throwing in their best prop picks. So, if you want lots of those, go to Discord.
Exactly. Link in the episode description for that. All right, game 3. Saskatchewan Roughriders visiting the BC Lions. Both of them coming off a big win here. What is the saying? I know I'm going to botch this. An unstoppable force beats an immovable object. BC Lions offense versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense. Something's got to give this week. What is most intriguing storyline here for you to open things up, Adam?
Well, first of all, you're right. It's the battle of first place in the West right now. Saskatchewan wins this. They got a 2-game advantage and really move into a good spot in the West. They lose this one. BC ends up taking over first place, and Saskatchewan probably is going to go pull out the pitchforks and go after Shea Patterson because that's how we work. It's just the way we roll in this province. But the big storyline, I think, right now, everybody's been talking about how deadly the Saskatchewan defense has been. Well, they got some problems all of a sudden, and some major problems. You want to go through them, Ryan?
Yeah, you're talking about the injury report for the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense. I mean, do you have defensive linemen that are available to dress? Because I look at the injury report here, and I see 6 defensive linemen on the injured list this week for the Riders. Their run defense has been really good so far this year. It's been incredible, really, and their secondary has been making plays and forcing turnovers, but walking a little wounded and not the right time to be doing so this week.
Yeah, and some of those are very major injuries. Christian Albright will be probably done for the season, from what I've heard. I've also heard about Charbel DeBeer. Both of those guys suffered serious knee injuries. Will be done for the season. I don't know when they did it. I mean, like I said, both of them looked like they were on the field and celebrating a win there against Toronto. So, practice? I don't know when this happened, to be honest with you. Yeah, and you got Nick Daly. You've got Brian Cox Jr. Malik Carney did not practice on Wednesday with another knee injury. So, Miles Brown was ill. I mean, Miles Brown is going to have to go, I think, because otherwise all you got is Micah Johnson. I mean, he's powerful, but I don't think he's getting through 6 offensive linemen on his own powerful.
Maybe earlier in his career, but I don't know if at this point he can get through 6.
I mean, if he does, I'm impressed. But, that's a tall order to ask. So be watching. A lot of people probably maybe looking at William Stanback this week, maybe in the fantasy side of things, just because of all the injuries to Saskatchewan on their defense. That being said, they still have most of that defensive backfield really running really well. And I mean, Roland Mulligan, yeah, he's going to go. He's listed as a limited on a shoulder injury on Tuesday, but I think he'll be quite fine. Really, like I said, there's Miles Sales is going back to BC. I guarantee he's going to want to have a big game. So picking Vernon Adams, well, that could be interesting as well. Just seeing what they did over to Cameron Dukes. That being said, Vernon Adams is a veteran and Cameron Dukes sure isn't. Ryan, what are you looking at in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the Riders' defense has been pretty scary so far. What is Shea Patterson going to do in this game as well? He looked serviceable is the word I would use last week. He didn't look fantastic. He got that nice rushing touchdown. He got decent passing average passing day, and he got it done. And kudos to him. It's hard to get a win, in your first game like that when all the pressure's on you. So I give him full props for it. He didn't look flashy to me in that game for sure. And now he's facing BC, where he's facing a quarterback on the other side of the ball that is looking like a world beater. Like Vernon Adams, we talked about the amazing season Nathan Rourke was having when he was here with the BC Lions. VA honestly might be having almost equally as good, if not better, of a season. He's averaging 350 passing yards a game on the year. And you look at last week, he had 330 and 4 touchdowns in the first half for them against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Granted, I could probably put that up against the Ticats defense right now. And I've never thrown a football in my life. That's not true. I have, but not professionally. So, the Ticats defense, how much of that is them? How much of that is VA? Well, VA has been doing this to everybody all season long. So that is really that's the matchup I'm looking for, because the Riders take the ball away a lot. They get pressure on the quarterback a lot. Now they're injured. But on the other hand, week 1, we were saying, BC's offensive line is a disaster. They're giving up 6 sacks, I think it was, to the Argos. They haven't allowed a sack or an interception since that week 1 game. They've turned it around full time. This offense is rolling on all cylinders. Stanback's rolling on all cylinders. Who even cares about all the other receivers on the team? Nobody can stop Vernon. No one can stop Alexander Hollins and Justin McInnes. And my draft team loves every little bit of that. But there's nothing seemingly anybody can do to shut this offense down right now. So it's a tall task, and we'll see if the Riders can do it. And that's really going to be the deciding thing about this matchup is those two sides there.
I mean, it's not that Saskatchewan doesn't have the pieces to make an offensive drive. Just Shea Patterson has to calm down a little bit in the pocket. The second half, he wasn't too bad when I was watching that game. But you got to remember, he was also missing his main target, or at least Trevor Harris's main target back in the day, Sean Bain Jr., who is coming back this week after attending a funeral. So you've got Sean Bain back. You've got Keon Schaefer-Baker, who's had some big games against BC. You've got AJ Ouellette, who looks like any time now he's going to hit that next gear and absolutely take one to the house. He was looking very close against Toronto, and there's a few times that he was pounding the turf wanting that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Ouellette versus that defensive line of BC. But you're right. I mean, BC has so far answered anything that has come to them except for Toronto's defense for some reason. Other than that, BC has looked kind of like a world beater. You're right. Hollins is absolutely deadly. Justin McInnes, I'm sure the Riders would love to have that one back. It's been a great year for the BC Lions, and this should be a really fun game. I think they're selling upper level tickets already, so it's going to be a packed house in BC Place.
Yeah, I've got some quick notes from actually the CFL.ca game notes for this week, talking about Vernon Adams Jr., quoting straight from the article here. He's on pace for the second most all-time passing yards in CFL history with over 6,307 is what he's currently on pace for. Only 3 other quarterbacks have ever thrown for over 6,000 yards in a season, and VA is on pace for that. Not only that...
Does it say who number 1 is?
Number 1 is Doug Flutie in 1991 with 6,600. So that's pretty good company there. Not only that, Alexander Hollins is on pace for 2,063 receiving yards this year. And only 3 players in CFL history have eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark. So it's incredible to watch, really, with this offense, that it keeps going to the same guys, and you keep thinking, okay, they're going to have to spread the ball around. Someone's going to shut them down, and just nobody can shut them down so far this year. We'll see if the Riders can this week. As we get into our fantasy players to watch, and while I talked about those stats, I think that's enough to highlight that you should put Vernon Adams Jr. and Alexander Hollins in your lineup. They're expensive. They combine for $29,000 in price, but some more quick stats here. VA has been a top 3 quarterback in all 5 weeks, 20-plus fantasy points a week, and he's averaging 26.2. Especially if I really like it, maybe even more than Fajardo if the Riders are as banged up on defense as they talk about. Not only 350 passing yards a game, but 24.5 rushing yards average as well, which helps pad the stats. And like I said, no interceptions since week number 1. Alexander Hollins, meanwhile, a top 6 wide receiver in 4 of his 5 weeks, averaging 22.9 points per game. And he's got a good matchup because starting left wideouts finish on average as a top 9 receiver in 17.7 points a game against the Riders. It is one of the best wide receiver matchups available this week. Let's talk about let me stick with the Lions here. I'll hand it over to you and talk a little Riders after that. But I don't have Justin McInnis on the list this week, which is tough because I left him off last week for strategic matchup reasons, and it burned me. McInnis having 8 targets in the first quarter and like 33 points in the first half of the game. Unreal week last week, but the Riders have completely shut his position down this year. They're allowing just 7.8 points per game, and left slot backs average a placement of 23rd among wide receivers against them. I'm going to guess that's where Roland Milligan lines up based on how well he's been playing this year, and he's been shutting wide receivers down, including shutting the likes of Tim White down not once but twice, who I think is still one of the best receivers in the league. So I'm going to make the bold play. Everyone's going to put McInnis in their lineup this week after what he did last week, and I think I'm holding him out of mine for this week. And then William Stanback is the other one that I'm kind of iffy on. He's up and down. Number 1 running back the last 2 weeks. Great. Top 3 finish in the 3 weeks where he's gotten receiving work. Great. But in the couple weeks where he didn't, he finished 7th and 8th. So it really depends whether they're going to throw the ball to him. I think they will. The Riders allow just 46 rushing yards a game. That's probably going to change if they're as banged up as they are. So maybe there's some more room for Stanback. I had him kind of written off, but I maybe turn it around on him as a potential option this week. But I love my BC Lions. If anybody wants to send me a BC Lions hat, I really got to get myself one of those because I would call myself a Lions fan almost at this point in time. I keep winning fantasy championships thanks to them. Adam, what do you got from either side in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan Rourke won you a championship. Now it's Hollins.
Last year was VA.
Last year was VA.
And Grimes.
And I mean, yeah, it just goes on and on and on from there. Keon Hatcher. I mean, like I said, Ryan is pretty much making bank every year. All you need to do is just take the BC Lions away from him, and you never know. You might have an opportunity to win. But, of course, none of us did that because we had to draft quarterbacks that we released and traded off for, well, I got some good pieces out of it. I'm not going to complain. Anyways, no, for the Saskatchewan side of the football for fantasy, the only real guy I've got to say maybe to take a look at is I'm going to give you actually a sleeper pick, Sam Emilus. I really like where he is right now. I think that he's due for a few more touchdowns, and he's got the right lineup and the matchup that BC's not really strong against, if I look at that right and how I looked at your charts. So if I'm reading Ryan's psychology correctly, I should be taking Sam Emilus. So that's one to maybe take a look at. He's still quite expensive. 10,000, I think he is in the fantasy, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he's going to have a big game. So you may want to try him out. A cheaper option, which sounds crazy that I get to say that, would be Keon Schaefer-Baker. But you know the BC's going to key on him. They've watched Keon burn him a lot of times, so they're going to key on him. Anyways.
It's funny
because it rhymes. Anyways, I don't think that probably he's a great pickup. You can look at AJ Ouellette as well. However, that defensive line of BC's is very strong, especially being led out by Nathan Cherry. I thought, though, that I did see him possibly on the injury list. He was, but he's fully practicing. He'll be ready to go. So I don't know if I'd take AJ Ouellette even. But if you want a real cheap quarterback, I mean, Jay Patterson got 19.5 points last week. Just saying.
Yeah, that's true. He's probably going to get that rushing touchdown again, let's be honest. Just comparing what you were talking about on the chart, Sam Emilus typically lines up in what I call the right slot back position. One of the best right slot back matchups of the week. The Lions allow the third most of that position, but it is just an average of 8.6 points. So teams across the league are not giving up much to that side, it seems. It seems more left side is where you go. So I wouldn't bank on that as a real critical matchup. But I do like what you say. Sam Emilus is one of those where he's like he's a good receiver. Like, he's good. He's so underrated to me where I struggle to think of him actually as that guy that like I need to put him in my lineup type myself. And I'm kind of staying away from all the Riders receivers because 4 different ones have had a top 7 finish this year, which is great, but it's hard to know which one it's going to be on any given weekend. I also really don't trust Shea Patterson as a passer. I think he can put up that total for you as a rusher, rushing quarterback potentially, but not in his passing game alone. So I don't like supporting those receivers that are also kind of up there in price. AJ Ouellette, I would consider it solely because he is averaging 16.8 carries a game. He's got the workload. He hasn't done much rushing-wise with that workload, but there's plenty of opportunities, and you have to think with his talent it's going to happen where at least one or two of those are going to break out for a big game here and there. So he is averaging 12.4 points per game so far. So for that price, you kind of need more from him at that workload. So I'm not strongly considering it this week, but it's hard to ignore that he is getting the number of opportunities he is and has potential to put up the points. Let's talk betting picks for this game, which is the line is at BC minus 7.5 in this one over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Over-under is at 51.5. Trey continues to drink the green Kool-Aid and is taking the Riders at plus 7.5 and on the money line in this one. Adam, what do you got?
I'm not drinking the green Kool-Aid this week, unfortunately. I did switch actually last week, I should mention. I switched off of Toronto at the last minute and said, you know what, somehow Saskatchewan's going to pull this off, and they did. That being said, if I was Corey Mace, I'd go and print this off and put it in everybody's locker and say, you know what, we're the undefeated team, aren't we? Just to get everybody excited because, you know what, that's being beat by more than a touchdown is pretty insulting, I think. That being said, though, I'm taking the BC Lions. Saskatchewan's getting banged up in the defensive line. That was a big part of their game. And, I'm going to go with the under on this game here just because I think both teams can battle on defense pretty well. So give me BC in the under.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here as well. Lions at home, I feel like they always play better at home as well. So I like that. The over-under at 51.5. Like, I don't have faith in the Riders' defense offense putting a ton of the points on the board, but their defense could maybe steal a touchdown or two here. I think BC could put up a decent number. 51.5, hey? Give me the over. Give me the over on it. Let's. I see BC. If Saskatchewan's defense is banged up, I see BC continuing to do what they could do and put potentially 30 points on the board. And then we just need 21 or so from or 22 from the Riders. I see a score line like that.
So when we get to next week, do I have to write the reasons why Winnipeg's going to win and Trey gets to write the reasons why Saskatchewan's not going to win, or why Saskatchewan's going to win?
Yeah, I think that's. I think you've swapped fandom pretty much. So, and I'm the neutral BC Lions fan in the middle.
Anyways, let's see what the gold coin has to say about this game. I mean, again, this coin has no bias, even though it is a Saskatchewan Roughriders 100-year coin. But it is going for the home team this week. It's going for the BC Lions.
It's that reverse psychology that Mike always likes to try to pull.
How's that working, Mike?
It always works. What are you talking about? All right, looking at player props on the game. Take a look here at some of these numbers on this one. There's a few I like on this one again. Especially, again, check those depth charts. Like William Stanback at 54.5 rushing yards. If the Riders were healthy, I would say under. If they're not, I would probably go over on that one. But I'm going to stand by what these charts say and going to stand by that Roland Milligan should probably be in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year at this point. And there's going to be an overcorrection here. And Justin McInnes, give me under 79.5 yards as my player prop pick on this game. I do think they shut him down a little bit. And I think Alexander Hollins is the one you're going to want to look at for your BC wide receiver on this game. So give me McInnes under 79.5, as much as I would love to see him over that for my draft league team. Fourth and final game of the week, it was the Ottawa Redblacks visiting the Edmonton Elks, who are coming off the bye. The Elks still looking for their first win of the season this week, and Ottawa potentially coming in a little bit banged up after Drew Brown left last week's game with an injury. What intrigues you most in this matchup?
Well, I think it's going to be if Drew Brown plays this game. I think that'll be probably a big storyline in this one. He was limited in practice. Head injury, so we all know what that probably means. I think that probably means the old C word, but you know what? I don't know if the Ottawa is going to let that go and mention that really that loud. But you know what? I thought Dustin Crum did a pretty decent job of, trying to patch up what he could. So that's, I think, my biggest storyline would be Ottawa and their quarterback situation, like we just said. On the other side of the football, Edmonton, just win the game already. They just about beat the BC Lions. They just about beat who was it the week before? Like they're always right there to win the game, and then they just can't. Toronto, they just about beat. They just about beat Montreal by losing by 3 points, 2 points, all these weird, close games. Saskatchewan by 8 points. I mean, Edmonton, just win it already. As sad as it sounds, I think they're going to have to rely again heavily on Curly Gittins Jr. It seems like McLeod Bethel-Thompson is going to be hucking the ball quite a bit, like he's been doing quite a while. And I think this is going to be one of those games where he has to make the old huck and chuck and see what he can get out of it. Ryan?
Yeah, something's got to give for Edmonton. Are we really going to be at the same point year after year where there's so much hope coming into the year for the Elks, and then we're in week 6 or week 8 or whatever we're talking about? We're still talking about a winless football team. Something's got to give for them eventually. Looking at the power rankings for this week, I would put Edmonton, if you're comparing Edmonton and Hamilton, I would put the Elks ahead of the Ticats because they have been competitive in a lot of those games. They look good. They just haven't gotten it done so far. And I think that's going to turn around a little bit as the season goes along for them, because you look at their games so far this year. Week 1 against Saskatchewan, well, they're undefeated. Week 2 against Montreal, well, they're undefeated. They faced the Argos in week 3. Then they faced the Lions. It's a pretty tough schedule that this team has had to start the season. Now they've got back-to-back against the Redblacks. And I think they win at least one of these, if not both. But I think they do win at least one. It's a matter of can they get it done this week for Edmonton. And I still really think they have to get the ground game going a little bit more. They have to get Eugene Lewis involved a little bit more in there. He really hasn't gotten much. He's got all the talent in the world. Even though Dylan Mitchell and Curly Gittins Jr. have both been playing very well, which has allowed kind of Eugene Lewis to take a back seat in that offense. You can unleash him somehow on there as well. That's huge for the Elks. On the Ottawa side of things, what does it look like with Drew Brown out this week? I'll give you the hot take. I think Ottawa, it was a waste to go after Drew Brown in the offseason. I don't think they needed to do so. I think Dustin Crum is arguably the best quarterback they have on the roster. I thought he was actually a decent passer last year. Everybody knows him as this Russian quarterback, but I thought that his passing game wasn't as bad as people thought. He just never had the time to throw because it was either scramble out of the pocket or get pancaked if you're Dustin Crum last year. Offensive line presumably improved a little bit this year, kind of like that. And I think there's room for him. And he actually, when he came into the game last week against Winnipeg, he looked like he was on a roll for a little bit, and then he threw that bad interception. And the next couple of drives after that, he looked like he was a little shaken up from it. So I think that's the biggest key for me on the Ottawa side is how does Dustin Crum settle his game down and get enough time back there. And if so, I think he can be successful if he is out there starting.
Yeah, I think that they probably jumped the gun thinking that there needs to be a change in quarterback. I don't think Drew Brown is the answer. Even in Ottawa, I think you're right. Dustin Crum was just most serviceable quarterback. The only way that they should have made a move is if a certain Hall of Fame quarterback comes available from the Green Bay Giants. Then, you know what? You got to go after that.
From the Green Bay Giants.
Wow, that sounded terrible. I mean the New York Giants.
No, you didn't even get the right green. It's not even the green team from New York here. I'm like, oh, you meant the New York Jets. Oh, wait, no.
No, I meant the Giants, but the New York Giants. I think we all know who I meant. Nathan Rourke.
You're talking about the Big Green Giant.
Maybe he became the Big Green Giant. You never know. Anyways, well, that's going to be a clip next week that I'll never relive. Anyways, you're right. I think Ottawa got some extra time now. Deontay Bull looks pretty good there in the offensive line and a few other players. Desjardins as well is settling in, I think, pretty nicely in Ottawa. So I think they'll be fine with whatever quarterback they have in there. I don't think it's a big of an issue. Over on the other side of the football, does McLeod Bethel-Thompson have to get this win, or can we see possibly a change in Edmonton? Or do you think it's McLeod Bethel-Thompson's game, it don't matter what?
With Chris Jones at the helm, I don't think there's any chance that Trey Ford enters as a starting quarterback. I think he's going to ride the pine until either Chris Jones leaves and whoever they bring in convinces him that he's going to get the keys for the future here, or I think he finds a job elsewhere in free agency. I think one of those two has to give. I think they're going to roll with McLeod Bethel-Thompson. They're going to talk about how they've been close in all of these games, and they're going to keep trying it until it eventually works. Is really what I expect to see here from the Elks, and it's not one thing for them, like you've talked about. It's a different thing every time, it seems, whether it's the penalties or the turnovers or the special teams lets them down or the defense lets them down when the offense is finally on a roll. Something's got to give, and I don't think McLeod Bethel-Thompson is the only problem the Elks have faced this season. Moving on to fantasy, I want to start off with a guy that we haven't talked about here yet that I am really excited about this year. This guy is explosive, and I think he's one of the next top running backs in the CFL for years to come if he can stay healthy. That is Raquel Armstead of the Ottawa Redblacks. He's $5,500 in fantasy this week, and you should lock him into your lineup and not even think elsewhere about it. It is the dream matchup because, thanks to the new handy-dandy charts, the running backs facing the Elks through 5 weeks so far have finished top 2 on average every single week because the Elks are terrible at stopping the run. I still don't know how AJ Ouellette only had like 40 yards on 18 carries in week 1 in hindsight against them. But ever since then, Armstead himself, has looked great. He's averaging 13 points per game. That's almost 2.5 points per $1,000 that you spend, which is fantastic value. And the only real down week he's had was against Montreal, and they were so far out of the game that he only got 6 carries because they had to get back into it. So Armstead is an absolute lock, a value steal at the running back position for me. I also like a couple Edmonton receivers potentially, and I feel like I throw them out every Edmonton game. You want a safe floor, not super high ceiling possession guy, go with Curly Gittens Jr. He has scored between 15.2 and 17.3 in all 4 games, meaning he's finished as a top 10 wide receiver in all 4 weeks he's played. He also gets 8.75 targets per game, and a really good matchup against Ottawa here for his position. I also like Dylan Mitchell at 8,000, who's kind of that. He's going to get less catches, but those catches are going to go for more yards. He's had 60-plus yards in every game, 80-plus in 3 of his 4, and he's got 2 top 7 finishes as a result, and his lowest finish has been top 16. Also, Redblacks give up most in the league to wideouts, where Mitchell has played his last 2 weeks. Yeah, those are my players to consider. I got some other notes here, but what are you looking at in this game for fantasy?
Well, I mean, Reichel Armstead is just a instant ad as well. I don't know if he's quite as high as Tyson Philpo right now, but you know what? Pretty much how I've been running this whole season was Edmonton, whoever the running back is against them, and then I'll pick the rest of my roster because, yeah, I don't know what it is. For the last 3 years, Edmonton cannot stop the run. And it's been pretty rough for the Edmonton Elks. That one I picked up. I got Curly Gittens Jr. right now on my roster because he does seem to be a favorite target of McCall Bethel-Thompson. I don't mind Dylan Mitchell as a pick. He seems pretty good. And also, you know what? I keep picking him up on my roster for the private fantasy league. It's Jake Hardy. Jake Hardy always seems to get some yards. What's that?
Justin Hardy.
Wrong Hardy too today. Wow. Anyways.
Don't pick up Jake Hardy. That's not a good play this week.
Not preferably, seeing as he's not even dressed. But nevertheless, you can try it if you really want to. I'd recommend Ryan does, so that way maybe I have a chance of winning my fantasy league.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention Adam and I are facing each other in fantasy matchup this week. So, Adam, go back and plug your ears over the last hour and 12 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know why, but in the Discord channels, it seems like there's a passcode, Ryan Rocks 2024, if I want to look at his charts. Otherwise, they won't pull up for me. I don't know. Anyways, not that I ever
find yourself banned from the Discord server for a week. We'll welcome you back in after.
Hey, I'm just trying to harness my inner voodoo and see if I can bring back Parksy there from the Elks from the Elks
District.
Turf District. See if I can bring back Parksy there, so just to go and harness my evil. It's not working though. I don't know why.
Justin Hardy though.
Yeah, Justin Hardy. He looks like I said, he's always been a good pickup for the Ottawa Redblacks. He always seems to get some consistent yards. Usually he's good for a touchdown. And you know what? They're playing Edmonton this week. I would say that they'd be scared of their defense, but it's Chris Jones's defense. I'm not scared of Chris Jones's defense anymore at all. So, even though they did make some pretty good ads this week, which we forgot to mention, you did get Sean Oakman over there now.
Yeah.
And you also did add in Derek Moncrief, who maybe isn't quite what he used to be, but he's still pretty good.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because when I saw that name, I feel like there wasn't a ton of fanfare over it. But was Derek Moncrief not used to be one of the best linebackers in the CFL? So has his play really dropped off that much? Like, why was he unsigned until now?
Well, he was unsigned for Saskatchewan because I think the contract sucked. I think that was the only issue. He had a big contract. Is he decent and serviceable? Oh, yeah. I don't think he's – I think Malik Carney made him expendable, essentially, is what happened in Saskatchewan. But, I mean, for Edmonton, why not? Yeah. You got nothing to lose by bringing him in, giving him almost a league minimum or maybe a little bit above, and going and seeing what you got. So, no, good signings by Edmonton. I'm still not scared of their defense. So I'm still going to go with Ottawa and guys like Jake Hardy.
Justin Hardy.
Oh, one of these nights, man.
One of these nights, we'll need the Jake Hardy retirement ceremony, and we'll just clip that and send it to Adam for every show to remind him he's not in the league anymore. Maybe
is he actually retired?
I don't know. I actually don't know where Jake Hardy is at right now. Made a key play for the Alouettes in the playoffs last year. Don't know where he is at right now. I think I've seen him on an active roster yet this year. Justin Hardy, though, I considered him as well. He does have 3 top 5 finishes at wide receiver in 4 weeks. That's really good. Yes, the Elks off defense isn't scary, but they seem to be at that spot. They allow second least in the league to left slot back, which is usually one of the higher scoring positions among wide receivers. So it's a bit of a tough matchup. Also, the question marks at quarterback. I might stay away from Justin Hardy this week, given some of the other wide receiver options. The other note I had of why do you not pick Eugene Lewis? Well, on average, he's only finished as the 22nd or 23rd best wide receiver on a week, which is absolutely not the kind of production you should get from a guy like Eugene Lewis. Needs to be better than that. Betting picks for this week's game. The Elks haven't won a game yet, but they are the home favorites here at -3.5 points. The over-under is at 49.5. Trey has gone with Ottawa on the money line and is taking the Redblacks to extend the Elks losing streak here. I'm going the other direction. I'm going with the Edmonton Elks to win this one. I will take them. I'm going to take them outright and to cover the spread of -3.5 here. I think something's got to give. Like I said, the health of Drew Brown there. Ottawa is sometimes not clicking there for me. I'm going to take the Elks. I believe in them to pick up the win. And I am going to take the under on this one. I don't think I've taken an under yet today, but I like the under here at 49.5. I think this could be a lower scoring game between these two teams. Adam, what do you got?
Edmonton has lost to Montreal by 3. They lost to BC by 3. They've lost to Toronto by 3. I think it's time for Edmonton to win by 3. I think they've taken and shot off all their feet, or off their toenails and everything else. They ain't got no toes left already for shooting them off. I think it's finally time that maybe they just go and take a shot at their opponent instead. So give me Edmonton to win this game. Are they going to win by more than 3.5? That's a good question. I think I'm going to actually take Ottawa to cover, but I think Edmonton's going to win by 3. I wish it was only 3 instead of. Oh, it's actually Edmonton by 4 technically nowadays in the thing. We did get an old number, but I'm going to go with Ottawa to cover this 3.5 or 4, and Edmonton to win. And I'm going to go with the over on this game. I think she's going to be an old classic throwdown. And, I think both teams are going to get a lot of touchdowns and have some fun doing it. Edmonton fans, go to this game. You'll have some fun. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, okay, your talk about these field goals convinced me. Let me switch it. I'll go Edmonton on the money line still, but give me Ottawa plus 3.5 on there because I do think it's going to be close on this where I'd rather kind of pad my opportunities here and take that either Edmonton wins this by 3 or if I get this terribly wrong and Ottawa wins, well, then the Ottawa is still going to cover that. So you convinced me there, Adam. But what does the coin say?
Let's see what it tells us today. It tells me that the Edmonton Elks will get their first win of the season here against the Ottawa Redblacks. And then next week they play each other real early in the week. So that'll be interesting.
Oh, 4 days off between 2 matchups between these teams? That's wild.
That could get interesting for the next game.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Player props for this game. Some interesting ones to look at here. I'm going to give my lock on this game to the running back. I hyped him up. Raquel Armstead, over 71.5 rushing yards. I think that's easy against this Elks defense. I think he's hit over that in 2 of his 4 games so far. Happened to be the 2 against Winnipeg, who struggle against the run. Edmonton struggles against the run too. Give me Armstead over 71.5 yards is the play I like the most on these ones. But I always do like me some Curly Gittens Jr. or Dylan Mitchell type props as well. But that's my go-to on this one, I think, is the Armstead. The matchup is just way too good for that one. Let me just write that down in the books here to keep track of that one. Do you agree on that one? Over 71.5?
Oh yeah, I think Armstead's easily going to get over 71.5. I even predict him for 2 touchdowns in this one here. I'm not sure what the prop is on that one, but I think Armstead's going to have a game. I mean, most running backs do. So I think that's a pretty safe one. And yeah, if you want my prop bets, I will get this working here. I will give you one from each game, but you got to go to our Discord channel to get it because I got to go afterwards and go get them. So check out the Discord channel later on. I'll post up a prop bet from each one. It might be tomorrow morning, but you will get a prop bet for each game from me.
Plus 420 for Michael Armstead to score 2+ touchdowns. You know what you could do if you want to go for a real bit of terrible odds, and you should not do this even for the ant farms, even for a tiny ant farm, even for a single ant. Tevin Jones plus 6,000 on 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's gotten in for a rep yet this year. Also, you can take the...
Yikes.
Oh, they also have Ottawa's defense at plus 8,500 to score 2 touchdowns.
Good luck with that one.
And injured Drew Brown at plus 10,000. I don't think that's happening. Do not bet any of those ones. I was just throwing them out for giggles there. One thing before we end wrapping it up, you'll notice we didn't throw any defenses out here in our fantasy picks this week. They suck. They're not worth it one bit, the defenses this year. I threw some stats out in the aforementioned Discord community after crunching some numbers and just scrolling up to find them up here. Out of 41 times a defense has played this year, only 14 of those times have they scored more than 5 fantasy points on the year, just 34% of the time. Only 4 out of those 41 times has the defense scored more than 10 points. Your Saskatchewan Roughriders have done it twice. So that's under 10% of the time are you getting double-digit points out of a defense. It's not worth wasting the money. You won't hear me throw out a defensive matchup probably in my fantasy players to watch going forward because it's not worth spending up on it. Spend as little as you can. Which brings us to, Adam, do you want to mention what the defensive play of the week is?
Absolutely. It's the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Best defense this week. They can't cost you any points like they did last week. Last week, I took a -4 from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. This week, you will not lose points by taking the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That I can put as my lock. Yeah, you will. That's my lock of the week. It's only $4,500 to take a 0, and it's well worth it. So you can afford Vernon Adams Jr. and Alexander Hollins and all those big fancy players that you really want.
I might actually do it. I might have to consider doing it. I hate taking a 0, but I applaud creative fantasy strategy, and they won't let you leave a spot blank anymore. So spend the $4,500 to put the Ticats off defense in there to score you 0 points. When the next lowest is $8,000, that's $3,500 you can put to better use. If you pay $3,500 for another player with what you save there, that puts you up, say, more than 5 points or more than 10 points, well, then that's already better than 90% of defenses so far this season. So, yeah, I might have to lock that in as my defensive play of the year here as well. I will love the creativeness of it.
And on a side note, we did a poll this week asking our Hamilton faithful and also the rest of the CFL, what is wrong in Tigertown this week going on right now? They're 0-5. They're in the bye week. I've got the results here for you currently. Some people are not paying attention. Bo Levi Mitchell is not the problem in Hamilton.
No, MVP.
13% of people are voting for that. So, no, you're wrong. I'm sorry. The receivers, 6%. Yeah, I can see a little bit of blame on the receivers. Tim White's having a bad year so far. But you know what? They've got some really good receivers in there as well. Shamar Bridges there has just been lighting it up, and I think the receivers aren't really the issue. The offense in total really isn't the issue. The defense, 76%. I really honestly hope that they get worse because that means they'll cost less in fantasy, so I can keep taking them more and more and more. The other options also given to all of us was the coaching staff and the general manager. We had that come up in privately quite a bit. Yeah, I can see it. But you know what? Scott Milanovich is a good coach. He's won Grey Cups. Maybe he's in over his head. I don't think so, honestly. I think it's just, you know what? You got to do something with that defense. That defense is very, very porous so far in Hamilton. And, of course, our last answer was the nothing. It'll be fine. 5% of that voted for it. So, FM Van, yes, I did count your vote.
No, he's been in the defense. I'm pretty sure he's been in the defense of the problem category. I mean, yeah, that is the overwhelming answer. Is the defense has been the problem. Bo Levi Mitchell has been throwing 300 plus yards a game every single game, and most of that's been in garbage time because the defense can't put up a stop and puts them in garbage time. So, Boudreau, as special teams coordinator, was the first domino to fall. I think if another one is, and I'm kind of surprised maybe one didn't happen now during the bye week so far, and maybe it does still, but you would think it would happen right away in the bye week, is Mark Washington, I think, is defensive coordinator in there. And I expected this drop off for Hamilton. I think Hamilton went for their glory years there in their shot, the really good years, 2019, 2021 Grey Cup trips there. And they got old on defense. And those guys like Simone Lawrence, like Ted Laurent, they've retired. And I don't think they built up the depth necessarily behind them. And now they're struggling on defense. And I don't think defense coordinator has done a great job there either. So I think he's the next domino to fall. I don't know if it happens now. And they fired one coach already, yada, 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 coach's cap. But the defense is overwhelmingly the problem. Bo Levi Mitchell is worth $100 on the waiver wire, folks. He's my number 2 quarterback now. So absolutely, he will be my quarterback in week 8 during the bye week, most likely.
You never thought you'd say that at the beginning of this year, did you, Ryan?
You never thought that I would turn around from just bagging on Bo Levi Mitchell for 3 straight years on this podcast to low-key like a big Bo Levi Mitchell fan, ironically now. I love it. That's great. To be fair.
Mind you, also wouldn't have seen me come back and be only 30 points behind you after last year having to do a redraft.
Yeah, well, yeah. Now you're the only one with a shot of catching me if the Lions forfeit a couple games along the way.
One injury, man. One injury. That's all I could say.
Yeah, but then they've got West All-Star Jake Dolagala, so it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Mason fine. And they're good evening, Richard in the chat, who hopped in late to say hi to us. Thanks for stopping by to say hi as we're just getting ready to wrap things up here. Oh, I don't have the slide. Let me grab the slide. Show up on the screen. In the meantime, I'll ramble about what's coming up next on the podcast, which is the same thing next week. That's fun. Week 7 CFL preview. We'll do all these fun things again, like what we did here tonight. Talk about, once again, my fantasy dominance over the rest of the guys here. And we'll make our picks and talk about storylines and betting picks and all that fun stuff here next Wednesday night. Same time, same place. Here live on the YouTube channel. There we go. Rambled long enough, far too long. In the meantime, you can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at CF Countdown Pod or Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod. You can find every Monday. Trey's got power rankings for you. I'm also throwing out the top 5 fantasy performers at each position there, trying to get that out on Mondays. Adam's got your poll question every Tuesday. And I'm trying to get those fantasy value plays in there for you all each week, but I've kind of trailed off on that a little bit because, the games start on Thursday, and I'm busy prepping this podcast for Wednesday, so might not see that come back for the next little bit. It's been tough to fit that in there, but if you have any questions about CFL fantasy lineup decisions, throw them out to us on socials or in the Discord. Throw them out to me at CooperTrooper42. Happy to answer those questions. Tag me in them there. I don't tweet much else than that, but you can find me there. Mike's at Mike Garrell. Trey's at Trey Harnesslink. He took the night off tonight, but he'll be back. I know he's always busy. He's got a lot of stuff going on, so check out all of his things there. Adam, where can people find everything you're doing over on the farm?
Well, if you want to check that out, we do have a nice little Discord page, all dedicated to the farming section. I mean, be lots of hay being cut right now. That's pretty much what we do at this time of year. So we go outside in a vehicle with no air conditioning, sit in it, and try to cut hay. Yeah, you try that for about 2 weeks. Nevertheless, you can check out that over on the Discord channel, or, just go over to Instagram, Farmer in Sask. Also, I do post up on the X once in a while at AdamSword1, but that's mostly trying to counter whatever Ryan posted about my fantasy picks. Mostly is what I do there. But, you can also, like I say, follow Trey. Trey, unfortunately, failed the drug test he claims over on the page. So, yeah, that's why he's not with us this week, which is weird. But nevertheless, because the commissioner must have caught him. Join us over at wherever you want to join us on social media. But definitely check out our Discord page. We do a lot of work on there. We do have a lot of great fans that give us some great suggestions on stuff. We usually are on there during game days talking away about the games as they happen. So you can actually do live chats with us during the games. Usually we'll be sitting there. I mean, I even posted pictures last week when I was sitting in the stands in Mosaic Stadium. If you notice that one girl in front of me, that was Corey Mace's wife.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
One row over further, so that was kind of cool. It was actually funny because my buddy went and said, back in the old days, like in the good old days when this stadium was packed and everything. Also, Corey Mace posted about the good old days in his post there on Twitter. Wonder where that was heard from. But anyways, you know what? Join us in the Discord channel. Lots of great stuff going on in there, and definitely look forward to visiting with you all for this weekend.
Yes, live game chats for each of the games. You can you get my tip on the best food items to eat at Princess Auto Stadium as well. I got a new one now. For a while it was the $4 pierogies. Then I went to the pulled pork poutine. A good old true classic. First time I've grabbed it at a game last week. Good old $5 bag of popcorn. That thing's big enough to last the entire game. It's great. I even took some home at the end of the night.
Yeah, and you know what? And when I was in Saskatchewan when I was in Regina last weekend, I definitely just, had to try one of the craft beers. They have a really, really good beers selection in Mosaic Stadium. But man, you got to pay for it. So it was good beer, I'll give it that. But I don't know about a $15 beer.
Yeah, those stadium prices. Yeah, $4 pierogies, $5 popcorn. They're worth the money, trust me. All right. Check out the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network, as well at CF Pod Network on Twitter. You can follow along with our fantasy league with all of them as well, going on right now. Adam and I face each other this week. We were both 4-0 going into last week. Tough losses for both of us. I put up 170 points and lost to somebody, Daltz from the Rouge Radio Podcast. I got to give him a shout out. Put up like 210 points on the week. He was like top 6 in the world or something like that. Like, if I'm going to lose a game, I want it to be a loss due to something like that, where no matter what I would have done, I probably would have lost, unless I picked the Riders defense, and I was not going to do that. In hindsight, I should have.
And I mean, I lost to Joe Pritchard, USFL Tecmo Bowl. I mean, he had a good game as well, 178 points. I had the worst game of my whole year so far. 95 points. Back in the day, that would almost win you some games. Now,
not anymore.
Close.
Nope, not anymore. I'm currently top 200 in the world, so we'll see what kind of progress we make this week on that. Also, the Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on Twitter, or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Shout out to all of our friends from around the network over there. Check them out as well. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things, such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. And on behalf of Adam, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.